All right, everyone, ready to dive into a new destination today. This one, well, it's kind of legendary.
Istanbul.
Yeah, Istanbul. We're talking about Istanbul, folks. I mean, who hasn't dreamt of getting lost in the Grand Bazaar or seeing the Hagia Sophia? Buckets list stuff right there.
Definitely a classic for a reason.
But let's be real, daydreaming about dipping your toes in the Bosphorus is one thing, but actually affording to get yourself there and, not just survive, but actually have an amazing time, that's what we're figuring out today. Just how pricey is Istanbul?
It's a question a lot of travelers ask, and with good reason. And the short answer is, it depends. Istanbul's tricky like that. You can live like Sultan on a shoestring budget if you're savvy, but it can also be surprisingly pricey if you fall into the tourist traps.
Oh, I like where this is going. So we're talking about a city with some serious range then. For our listeners who like to plan ahead and budget, let's break it down. Where do we even start?
Well, like any big city, the biggest chunk of your budget is usually going to be, you guessed it, accommodation.
Okay, makes sense. So let's talk rent. What are we looking at in Istanbul? Are we talking New York City prices or more manageable?
Okay, so imagine this. You're strolling through the trendy streets of Cihangir, sipping Turkish coffee with a view. Or maybe you're browsing the antique shops in upscale Beşiktaş. Those are prime locations, and yeah, you're going to pay a premium for that address. Think similar to what you might find in, say, some of the hipper parts of Chicago, maybe.
Okay, so we're not talking dirt cheap then. But what about those of us who, aren't afraid to venture a little off the beaten path?
That's where things get interesting. Venture a little further out from those hot spots, and you'll find residential districts with a much more down-to-earth vibe and much friendlier prices, too. Think about it this way. You're trading those trendy cafes for authentic local markets. Your Instagram feed might not be as glamorous, but your wallet will thank you.
See, that's the kind of insider info our listeners tune in for. All right, so you found your perfect neighborhood. How are you actually getting around this sprawling city? I imagine taxis can add up quickly.
You'd think so, right? But honestly, Istanbul has one of the best public transport systems I've ever used. Seriously, ditch the taxis and hop on the metro. A single ride will set you back a measly 50 cents.
Wait, seriously, 50 cents. Okay, last time I was in London, the tube was like $5 a pop. I'm sold. Tell me more.
It's clean, it's efficient, and you can get pretty much anywhere you want to go. Plus, think of the people watching opportunities. You're getting a real slice of Istanbul life.
See, this is why we love public transit. It's not just about saving money, it's about the experience. Okay, but I have to ask, no trip to Istanbul is complete without a ride on those iconic ferries, right? Cruising down the Bosphorus, seeing the city from the water, that's got to be on the itinerary.
Absolutely. And here's the best part. A ferry ride, even across the whole Bosphorus, is shockingly affordable. We're talking less than $2 for a journey that's both picturesque and, steeped in history.
You had me at shockingly affordable. This is what I'm talking about. All right, moving on to something I know everyone's been waiting for food. Turkish cuisine. It's like a symphony of flavor. But how much of that symphony can we actually afford to experience?
Oh, get ready for a culinary adventure, because Istanbul is a foodie's paradise, especially if you're on a budget. Picture this. You're in the heart of a bustling market, aromas of spices wafting through the air, and right there, a vendor is grilling up these juicy, succulent doner kebabs. For like, what, $3? You get a wrap that will rock your world.
Okay, you had me at doner. I'm sold.
But it's not just about street food, although that's amazing. Istanbul's also teeming with these charming little family-run restaurants called Esnaf Lokantası, where you can get a proper home-cooked meal without breaking the bank. Think lentil soups that warm your soul, flavorful stews, fresh salads, all for around like $5 to $10 a person.
See, this is what I love about Istanbul. It has that perfect blend of budget-friendly finds and then, I'm assuming, some seriously high-end places to splurge if you're in the mood.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a Michelin-starred experience, a rooftop dinner with a view, Istanbul has got you covered.
And that's a good reminder. Don't forget to check out the show notes for some travel hacks, deals. We've got some really good ones for Istanbul this time. You can find that perfect balance for your trip.
For sure.
So we've covered the eats, the sleeps, the transport. Let's talk about the soul of Istanbul, the history, the culture. We're talking about iconic landmarks, right?
Absolutely. You've got the Hagia Sophia, a masterpiece of Byzantine architecture. Then there's the Blue Mosque with its stunning blue Iznik tiles. And don't even get me started on the Topkapi Palace. the opulent residence of Ottoman sultans for centuries.
It's almost like you're stepping back in time. But those are some pretty big ticket items. What about those experiences that are uniquely Istanbul, but maybe a little less crowded, a little more, off the grid?
Oh, Istanbul has plenty of those. Imagine yourself bartering for spices in the Grand Bazaar, that labyrinth of a marketplace. It's an experience in itself. Or getting lost in Balat, the historic Jewish quarter with these amazing, colorful buildings and vintage shops. The best part, these are completely free. They just require a bit of adventurous spirit.
And that reminds me, souvenirs. We have to talk about souvenirs. What should people expect to shell out for? Like those beautiful Turkish lamps, the ceramics?
Well, this is where your haggling skills come in handy, especially in the Grand Bazaar. For those intricate ceramics or hand-woven textiles, be prepared to spend anywhere from $10 to $50, depending on the size, the craftsmanship. But for smaller trinkets, those evil eye charms to ward off bad luck, or some delicious Turkish delight, you can find those for just a few dollars.
Okay, before we send everyone off on their virtual Istanbul adventures, any hidden costs we should warn them about? Those sneaky little expenses that can creep up on you.
Good call. Tipping's customary in Istanbul, so budget around 10% at restaurants and cafes.
Yeah.
And watch out for service charges. They can be added to your bill, especially in those more touristy areas. Just, be aware.
Pro tip. Write that down. I always forget about service charges. This has been amazing. Istanbul really seems to have it all, and for every budget, too.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. It all boils down to what you want to get out of your trip. Foodie, history buff, culture vulture. Figure out your priorities, then you can budget accordingly.
So for our listeners who are now frantically Googling flights to Istanbul, what's one final piece of advice you'd leave them with?
Don't overplan. Istanbul is best experienced with a sense of spontaneity. So come with an open mind, be ready for anything, and trust me, the best experiences are often the ones you least expect.
Love it. On that note, go book that trip. And don't forget to check out those show notes. We've got some amazing travel deals and insider tips waiting for you. Until next time, safe travels, everyone.